It's a great honor and a privilege to introduce Devorah Kieffer. Your maiden name was Schechter, and we're here in Yerushalayim. And Devorah, your story is unbelievable. I've never heard such an incredible...
All the stories are unbelievable, and yet we're here. It's a miracle.
You mentioned that there's 18 miracles that you personally know of. That each miracle, if it wasn't for each miracle, you wouldn't be here.
That's right. At least 18 miracles. Wow. Any one of them, and we wouldn't have been here. When I tell you how it came about, I'm sure you'll agree with me. This is just
thank you very much.
a short history, only until April 41, from November 38. I didn't know it then, but now as an adult, my awareness of the many miracles Hashem granted us grows, along with the admiration of my remarkable parents, who were so innovative, resourceful, and quite daring. I'm blessed to be alive and able to tell you how it happened. My parents' thriving textile business was confiscated after the Anschluss, March 12, 1938, the date Germany annexed Austria. Later, November 10th, 1938, the night of the broken glass, Kristallnacht, changed the people's attitude to the Jews from friendly to extremely hostile. October 28, 1938, the Gestapo came to our house at 2 a.m., kicking the door with their boots, to deport my father, Shlomo Schechter, who came from Poland, though he lived in Vienna for many, many years. He and many other Polish Jews were deported and sent to the Polish border town of Spongin. This left my mother without warning, suddenly alone with 4 children. Weeks later, the Gestapo came again at 2 a.m., as before, woke us up and questioned my mother about my father's whereabouts. She, of course, had no idea as to where he was, thinking he was now in Poland. But they could see that she was bewildered and telling the truth, so they left. The next morning, she told her sister, who lived a few streets away, about the visit. And her sister replied, Baruch Hashem, now we can tell you. He's been hiding in our basement. We were told later that he had gotten off the train and miraculously avoided capture. He took a train in Dresden and managed to go through Germany to return to Vienna. Fearing the Gestapo would find him missing and search for him, which they did, he didn't return to our house. Being thoughtful, he purposely didn't tell my mother he was hiding elsewhere. All Jewish men were in great danger. My father, my brothers, as well as my uncle, his wife, and child left together shortly after, making their way through Germany, entering Belgium illegally. I was not told of their trials on the way. Meanwhile, my mother, sister, and I, in Vienna, I wasn't allowed to go to school, so I was at home watching my mother sewing sack after sack, filling each with our belongings, awaiting word that my father had arrived safely in Belgium, and then she would be able to get an address where we could send our belongings. Once that came, it was our turn to try to get to Belgium as well. Our group consisted of mother, the 2 little girls, grandmother, and grandfather. We traveled again through Germany to Cologne, a large city closest to Belgium. At Cologne, we were in a hotel, and my mother thought it best to have my sister, age 4, and me, I was 6, board a train to Antwerp. She felt that we little ones would not be stopped, and father would meet us at the station. She and the grandparents would find it easier to smuggle themselves across the border into Belgium without the hindrance of the 2 of us. I was to be in charge and be responsible for myself and my sister on the train. Things did not go as planned. The train close to Antwerp was stopped. No one was allowed to get off. It reversed and went back to Cologne, where all the passengers went on their way. All except we, 2 little ones. It was close to midnight, and we stood and waited, hoping Mother would come. She thought, of course, that we were in Belgium by this time. I was the one responsible and had to decide what to do. I needed to calm my sister, who was crying, hungry, and very tired. I tell her my mother would soon come, although I knew my mother thought we were already with my father, and so she really might not come.
Devorah, how old were you at this time?
I was 6. That thought frightened me, yet I had to hide my panic. Having been assigned the responsible one, it was my duty to take care of Ada and decide what to do. A woman who lived across the train station, seeing 2 little girls standing across the street so late at night alone, and the smaller one very young and crying, came to us and wanted us to come to her house. She spoke to my sister and promised to give her hot chocolate and that she had a bed where she could go to sleep. Ada extended her hand to her and readily wanted to go. I pulled her back and insisted that we must wait at the station. I was afraid to trust the woman. My dilemma was, should I remain at the station alone and let Ada go? Insist Ada stay with me, or both of us go? That responsibility and the decision was really overwhelming. I think about it now.
You were only 6 years old.
I'm 6 years old, very much afraid of making the wrong decision. I wondered if I could trust the woman. We had a maid who was with us for many, many years, and as soon as the Anschluss happened, she was very, very nasty and took valuables and felt that she could do whatever she wanted. And and many Viennese were very, very hostile to the Jews, and they were cruel after the Anschluss. And before then, we were tolerated quite well, but it changed drastically. So I was afraid that this woman might have other intentions.
Devorah, you remember the name of the maid?
Paula Planins, yeah, sure, I remember her.
We have a picture that we can
Here she
show.
is. I was 6 and my sister was 4, and here she's a baby. So she was with us quite a few years. My mother, this is me, my brother, my baby sister, my other brother, and my father, and that's Paula Plan.
And she became very nasty.
Yeah. Of course, she left after a bit, and we never saw her. We were very happy to see her gone. But when I was waiting there at the station, I didn't know what to do. I didn't trust anyone who was not Jewish at that point. And I didn't know this lady. What is she going to do to us? Will she inform the Nazis that she had 2 Jewish children? Was she really kind? It was such a terrifying decision for me to make. Recalling, this story is 80 years old, and I'm still having a visceral reaction in my stomach when I have to talk about it.
And you remember it so well.
I couldn't cry then.
Why?
I had to be with the big sister. I had to calm my sister. Okay. Anyway, we had a lot of nisim. The way my mother found us was also a nest. And after we got together with my mother, we never left her side again. But then we all had to go, the 5 of us, traipsed on foot from Cologne to Belgium.
So what happened? What was your decision?
I'm just going to say something about, I'm sorry, I'm tearing, but...
It's so emotional. Devorah, it's unbelievable.
See, objectively, there were many occasions, much more severe. Hunger, bombs falling around us, internment in 2 camps. But as long as I was with my parents, not having the responsibility to decide was so much easier. Okay. The next morning,
What did you decide? Did you
we
go
went with the woman after she put her name and address to the ticket taker at the station, that if a woman came looking for two little girls, they would be able to tell her what happened, that a woman took them to her home across the street and that she'd be waiting for her.
And who decided that?
I had to decide that.
You told the woman that you'll only go on this condition?
Only if she. How will my mother find us? I asked her, and I wouldn't go unless. And when she had written everything down, then I thought that we better do that.
That was
If she was willing to write her name and her address, I felt that was. That would be the best thing, because my sister was really out of it. She was so tired, and she was crying, and she was hungry, and she wanted to lie down and go to sleep.
For a 6-year-old to think of that was an incredible decision you made.
I was 6 going on 40. Anyway, okay. The next morning we quickly left Cologne. My mother was fearful because our composite shouted Jewish refugees.
Oh, yeah, I just want to ask before, you went to this woman's home, and was she very nice to you that night?
I didn't go to sleep. My sister, she was good as her word. She gave my sister hot chocolate, and my sister fell right asleep. But I wouldn't take anything from her. I sat at the window where she saw us, and I had my hand on the windowsill and holding my chin, looking at the station, hoping to see my mother. And my mother had to pull my hand away when she came and found me, because I fell asleep just looking at the station.
So your mother came to the station?
Yeah.
And she saw the note?
Somehow my father, I don't know how he got word to her. Those were days before cell phones, before phones. It had to happen with a telegram that was delivered by people, not. So it took a long time. What my mother must have gone through after she read that we weren't with my father, I hate to think.
And she came to the station and she saw the note and she went to
She wanted to find out what happened to the two little girls, yeah.
And you remember her coming to...
I don't remember anything. I was looking at the station, and I fell asleep that way, and that's how she found me, looking at the station. That's what happened.
Devorah, this is amazing.
Okay. The next morning we left the hotel immediately because my mother was getting looks, and she was afraid that we're going to be reported as being Jews, and that would have been the end of us. So we had to leave right away. The four of us went towards the border. It was we slept one night on a farm.
So it was your mother, your
my
sister,
mother, my
you?
grandparents, my sister and I, the 5 of us. And my mother paid the lady well to let us in the house for the night. It was very cold out, so we needed to sleep. And there was snow on the ground, and luckily we were dressed warmly, and early in the morning we left, and we kept walking. When we reached the border, a soldier stopped us and would not permit us to go further. He wouldn't let us cross into Belgium. And so my grandmother told me to come. She says, "Come here." You know, she was speaking Yiddish to me, and she told me to approach the soldier and to tell him that if he wouldn't let us go by, God was going to punish him. And she said, and I must use my finger, my index finger, and I had to tell him, God will punish you. Well, nobody said no to my grandmother. And I did what she told me. I went over to the soldier, who was very tall. He was black. He was all in black, madim. he had a big rifle, a real tall rifle, and he stopped us and he wouldn't let us walk. And I'm looking up at him and I'm using my finger and I tell him, Gott wird Ihnen strafen. You know, I was speaking to him in third person because I was taught that to an adult you have to be very polite and speak. Okay. So I wrote over here that I didn't ever refuse my grandmother, so I did what she asked. And the soldier then asked my mother to come. He said, he told me not to curse him. And he says, I want to talk to your mother. And then I was a little bit afraid. I didn't know what he was going to do to her. But he whispered to her about a smuggler that he knew. And if the little ones could climb the hill to his hut, he would take us across. But he couldn't do it because if he did and people found out that he would be shot too. So the little ones managed to climb the hill, and we did. Somehow we got into Belgium. Now, meanwhile in Belgium, my father had so many experiences that were filled with miracles as well. He was approached by a policeman and asked for his residence papers, and of course he didn't have any. He had just smuggled into Antwerp. But the policeman was sympathetic to him and gave him a temporary residence permit, which was remarkable at the time. Belgium actually was neutral at that time, and I was registered in school in the Flemish-speaking first grade class. Flemish being closer to German than the class that was taught in French. So my mother thought that Flemish would be easier for me. Okay. We lived in a very small apartment on Sommerstrasse in Antwerp, and my father was busy trying to arrange to get us to the United States, fearing that Belgium would not remain safe for long. He remembered that a distant cousin living in America, Herman Youngleib, wrote to him and asked if he would be willing to guarantee that we will not be a welfare burden to the government. Doing this would grant us a visa. He did. He was able to do this for us, even though we had no contact with him before, but he was a very distant relative. How my father found his address is also miraculous. But what I say now, I found out many years later from my older brother, what I'm going to tell you now. My father traveled to Brussels to obtain special League of Nations passports, known as Nansen passports for stateless persons, and we were ready to get our visas. Within a matter of weeks, it seemed, our family would be living in New York City. On Thursday, May 9th, we went to the American Embassy in Antwerp and brought our Nansen passports for immediate processing. After passing the health examination and personal interview, paying for the visa stamps, we were told to return the next day to pick up the validated visas. But by Friday morning, May 10th, the Germans had begun their simultaneous attack on Belgium and the Netherlands, also France and Luxembourg, beginning with a ferocious air assault. We stood in a long, growing line waiting to enter the American Embassy, but no one was admitted. Suddenly, an official came out and announced to the restless crowd, "We have strict orders from Washington. No more visas will be handed out until the international situation clears." Guards immediately ordered everyone to disperse. We were stunned. We couldn't get our Nansen passports back, and we had no visas. Belgium would soon be under Third Reich domination, and we tried the American Embassy on Monday, and the next day the embassy remained closed. I remember those nights being woken up from sleep and made to run down to the basement and hide behind sandbags because the bombs were falling everywhere. It was too dangerous to stay. It was time to leave the country before the Nazis arrived. We made our way to the train station with the few belongings that we could carry, leaving everything behind. The train traveled southward towards France. At some time, we transferred to open coal cars. I remember the crowding. The steel wagons were open to the sky, and as the train arrived at the French border town, we found ourselves under attack by German Stukas that set the station ablaze. The train had to stop when parts of a plane had fallen on the track. There were dogfights, strafings of the train, which made many, including us, scramble out and run to the hilly forest. Finally, the Luftwaffe flew without interference, and after a while we heard the train whistle. Some decided not to chance going back to the train, but Father said to quickly get back before the train starts to move. We ran back and made it as the train was already moving. Soon we were at an army base near Paris. The security police checked all the passengers, and we were divided into 3 categories: French citizens, Belgian citizens, and aliens or stateless, those without papers. Well, we had no papers. They interned us as Stadtlos, Burger Jews, as belonging to no state or country. We were placed in 2 internment camps. The first one was Château de Frimont, near Mouzon, and the second was Ramelon, near Pont de Gare. I can draw the layout of both camps even today. The first camp was run by a very cruel commander. We had very little food, and I remember being constantly hungry. My parents had even less. They allowed us to eat some of what was offered, but they ate nothing that was not kosher. My father boiled water, and sometimes Mother would add mushrooms that we picked near the trees to make soup in a little pot that they had. My brother and I would crawl under the barbed wire fence and scavenge for what we could find to bring back. Father made sure we ate only under supervision, and he would boil the water we drank. Having very little nutrition, my mother had a spell of hysterical blindness. We children were very frightened. We slept on the floor on some straw, which was left in the stall where the horses were kept. Now it's where we were kept. My father saw others getting infected, stepping on debris, broken pieces of all sorts. This was most dangerous as there was no medicine to stop infection, and from a little sore some people died after gangrene set in, and it was just awful. I don't remember why we were released from Château de Frimont, but my brother thinks that the visas held in Belgium had something to do with it. We were on the way to Marseille, and when we arrived, there was another inspection, and our release tickets were not accepted, so we were placed in another camp. It was a prisoner of war camp, where Italian soldiers who had been captured in the French-Italian front were being held. The commander, who suddenly received several hundred Jews of all ages, had no real idea of how to handle the situation. He announced through an interpreter that the men and women would be separated, the children going with the mothers. We children were told to run around and need not be quiet. Then the commander was told that without the family unit staying together and the children disciplined by both parents, he would have a very hard time. This won the day, and the hapless commander came to appreciate this group of Jews who in many respects were self-governing. In this second camp, fearing we would not survive if we didn't have food, my father went to the cook of the camp and asked if he would consider having him help by making the daily soup for the Jewish inmates. He asked for legumes and vegetables all in raw state. The cook agreed and even offered him some meat bones, which my father of course refused. He then koshered 2 big kettles and made thick broths that were very tasty and nourishing. The line for his soup got longer and longer each day as even the Italian prisoners lined up. Our job was to pick up the coals dropped on the railway tracks, which were many, for my father's kettle. No longer did we feel hungry. Another problem soon arrived that required solution. Shoes and sandals were wearing out. My father became, in addition to the cook, the shoemaker as well. A supervised trip to the nearby town brought back a last and several shoemaking knives and awls, as well as a large supply of nails and brads. A torn rubber tire was fashioned for soles for our worn shoes. As a child, I didn't appreciate, nor did I realize his drive and ingenuity, thinking all fathers were like him. His constant care for us reminds me of a time when we were all walking in the evening. I don't remember where or when it was, but we children complained that we were very hungry, not having eaten for a long time. We were nearing a farm, and my father left us to go to the chicken coop. He lifted up a chicken, took the egg, and then took a coin and put the coin in place of the egg. He repeated this again and again, each time leaving a coin worth more than the egg he took. My mother then took her hairpin and pushed a little hole in both sides of the egg. She shook it vigorously back and forth and told us to suck out the inside. The egg was still warm, and I remember how we kept sucking even after there was nothing left. Today I can't imagine eating a raw egg, but then it was so delicious and satisfying. When I told my grandchildren about it, they had many questions and about why did he have to do this on the sly and all these things, and they had no idea of the danger the farmer would have been in had he allowed Jews to, and if he was sympathetic to the Jews and the Nazis found out, he would have gotten into quite a bit of trouble. So there was really no other way to do this other than to quickly take what we absolutely needed, and yet not wanting to have the egg without paying for it. My father left a coin worth more under each chicken. All right. During the summer months, my older brother was thinking of Rosh Hashanah, and somehow he got out of the camp and came back with 2 small horns. I have the picture here he wanted to make a shofar for Rosh Hashanah. My father had a beautiful, sweet voice. He was not a chazan, but he was a bal tefillah. And of course, we didn't have a machzor with us, but he knew most of the tefillahs by heart by that time. Anyway, Zalman was told by another prisoner that he had to boil the 2 horns and then scrape out the bone and the remains in order to clear a passage if he wanted to be able to create a sound through the horn. He had no equipment but a broken metal piece of a clothes hanger. This he used to bore through to the opening. It's hard to believe that this little shofar let out such a loud sound. My brother has the shofar still and sent me a picture of it for my grandson's school project. I have it's in there. I'll show it to you in a little while. My brother writes that the commander came in and a number of names were called as having permission to leave before Rosh Hashanah. Ours was among them. So being released, we went to Marseille, a southern city, which offered optimal chances to leave by sea. Father again tried to get affidavits for emigration to the U.S. The Belgian visas were not valid in France, so the process had to start afresh. We had complied with all the conditions in Belgium in the early 40s, but now requirements are much more stringent and formidable. The U.S. is still neutral and not interested in having a Jewish influx. In Marseille, I was again placed in the 1st grade. This time I had to learn French. I was very unhappy in school as the teacher was especially mean towards my sister and me. The refugee Jews who didn't speak French and even held the pencil in their left hand. She would transfer the pencil into my right hand and my left hand behind my back so I would be forced to write correctly. She adapted the feeling that was prevalent in Vichy France, which was in sympathy with Germany. Many felt that Hitler would win the war and wanted to be with the winning side. We luckily were granted another miracle by obtaining to leave France, enabling us to leave France February 17th by boat. The story of how we got the visas is not in here, but I'll show it to you later. We sailed on an old French cargo tramp steamer called Ipanema, flying the French Vichy flag en route to the U.S. via the Antilles. We were on sea for 6 weeks, passing through Spain, Oran, Algeria, the Straits of Gibraltar, from the Mediterranean to the Atlantic, Casablanca, Morocco, Martinique, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, St. Thomas. It goes on. The boat plied south to avoid German U-boats, which were very active. As usual, my father worried about our supplies for the journey. Before the voyage, he had bought a big carton full of canned sardines, it being concentrated protein that would last the trip. Every day he would open a little can, and the 6 of us would share it, smearing it on bread or zwieback, whatever we happened to have. Some days I would sing for the cook, and he would reward me with an onion or a lemon. Father would save the onion for Friday Erev Shabbos, chop it up very fine, and mix it into the sardines. And this was our special Shabbos treat, sardine salad. When we arrived in the Virgin Isles, we again had no cooking facilities, so Father bought the readily available pineapples by the sackful. Our meals were pineapple and bananas. Okay, for the duration, it is now April 1941. Pesach is approaching. There are no matzahs available on the island, but there we were granted another miracle, and we call this the Frank Richardson intervention. I didn't tell it, I'll tell it to you now. My brother took my sister to a park, and there was a man in the field house. My sister had to use the facilities, so my brother asked him in Spanish where she could go. And then he turned to my sister, giving her the instructions, either in French or in German, I don't remember which, but he told her where to go. The man was very intrigued with this young man who spoke languages, and he asked him all about his background. And somehow Zalman felt comfortable telling him that we had just arrived here, but we were really anxious to get to New York before our holiday because we needed special food for the days of Passover. And the man really liked him, and he said, "Follow me." And he took Zalman and my sister to the Alcoa Steamship Company. My father had before then tried everywhere to get passage to the United States, and everything was solidly booked, and he couldn't find it. And we were wondering how we were going to manage over Pesach. So Frank Richardson went to the Alcoa State. As he walks in, they're all saying, "Hi, Frank, hi, Frank." He seemed to know a lot of people. He goes into the vice president's office, and he says, "I need 6 berths on the ship that leaves tomorrow morning." And the man says, "Oh, that's very funny. Nothing's available." He says, "Well, I'm sitting down, and you'll find something. I'm not leaving until you do." And he found. Zalman comes home, tells my father, "We have to pack. We're going to go to New York tomorrow morning." My father said, "That's a very funny joke." He wouldn't believe him. It took quite a bit for my brother to convince him that he wasn't joking. And we did. We got up in the morning, we went to the ship, and we had to climb up gangplanks, and the captain was wearing a white garment with gloves, and this was the most luxurious steamship that I've ever seen. We had come on an old rickety Ipanema for 6 weeks. It was rusty. How it made the Atlantic is another miracle. And here we see this gorgeous big streamliner. It was a luxury boat, and of course the people who went up were dressed to the nines. And here we're schlepping up the stairs, and the captain says, "You don't belong here, please leave." And he said we were added very, very late. He says, can't possibly be true. You know, he couldn't believe it. And then he looks at his paper, and sure, on the bottom, he shows where we were assigned. So he snaps his finger, and a purser comes up, and he bows to us, and he takes us to where we were going to be. Well, Zalman and Yossi were in a cabin, in a berth someplace. I don't know where they were, but they showed us, my sister and I, and my parents, to a suite that I could draw you a picture of it. The doors opened wide. There was the most, I've never seen such a large bed, and flowers on one side, beautiful fruit in another side. It must have been the most expensive suite of the ship that they couldn't sell to anyone else, but they assigned it to us because of Frank Richardson's being a friend of the vice president of the company. I'm amazing, you know. And the next morning we were in Ellis Island.
Wow.
So that's how we got to America before Shabbos. We were picked up by the Hayas, and we spent the Sidorim there. And on Chol HaMoed, Pesach, my father started to look for where we should go to live. I understand from my brother that by that time, my parents had a total of $50 left. In a new country, not knowing the language, being worn out from all of their travels and all the things that had gone through, and of course, you know, he still worked with all his enthusiasm to get us settled. He discovered that there were 2 day schools for girls in New York. One was in Borough Park in Brooklyn, and the other one was in Manhattan. And since there were many more yeshivas for boys in Brooklyn, he decided we'll go to the Brooklyn one. He went to the school where they had the day school, and he put a pin at the school and drew a circle on the map around the school, and that's the area he looked to rent an apartment for us so that we could walk to school. And then there was a problem, of course, of getting us registered, which is another miracle, because the principal, Dr. Lieberman, very justifiably said, sorry, we can't have your children. It's after Pesach. Your girl is 9 years old. She doesn't know how to read ABCs, and she doesn't speak English. What are we going to do with her? Besides which, our classes are filled to the brim. We had to turn away very mechubedika families. We didn't have enough room. So the children should go to public school, and after this, they'll learn a little English, and then after the summer, we'll see if we can somehow get them into class. So my mother was very, very distraught. My father really didn't want us to go to public school. He was fearful to have us go with, we really didn't know any English, and he was afraid of what would happen with us. So my mother was very depressed. But my brother was at the time in the yeshiva in Lubavitch, and he had a very special relationship with Rav Yosef Yitzchak, the Rebbe. And he had met the Menachem Mendel Schleierson in France. It's a whole story that I'm not telling. But he went and he brought regards from his son-in-law. Anyway, to make a long story short, he comes to my mother and he says, the Rebbe says to go back to the school. So my mother says, I can't. She threw me out. She's not going to. The Rebbe said to go. And he finally convinced my mother to go. And she went to the school. And the secretary says, Mrs. Schechter is here again. Dr. Lieberman comes out and welcomes my mother into her office. And she says she doesn't know how she's going to work it out, but there is no way she can refuse the Rebbe, so please bring the girls. The next day we went to school. I was placed in the kindergarten with my sister in the morning, Mora Picus spoke French, so she was able to teach me all the concepts. And I was so happy to be in that class. It was just a delight. In the afternoon, I was placed in first grade with Miss Hausdorff, who taught me the ABCs during recess. By the time school let out, I was reading. And after the summer, I went into the third grade. And then afterwards, I skipped again until I got to my regular classroom. But it was all miraculous how everything turned out. And I loved being in that school. It was just the most marvelous experience.
And with the other girls, did they ask you about your history coming from Europe, fleeing Austria and going through France? Could you speak to your friends? Did you make a lot of friends as well, girlfriends?
It was not a problem at all. I was with, first of all, I felt comfortable to be with other Jews. And in the morning we learned Torah subjects. I was like home.
And did you make friends quickly?
No problem whatsoever.
But did they ask you about coming?
No, they couldn't care less. And I didn't want to say anything either, I was just so happy to be there. It was a wonderful school, and I just loved it. It was great. Everything was with Hashgacha.
But now I just have to ask, I think
I was going to tell you now about Bingham.
Yes, please. This is what I was going to ask, because this is something.
I found this out. I had no idea that we needed visas, or that I was young at the time. I found this out after 70 years of living here.
You never knew about Bingham before? Your parents didn't discuss it?
I had no idea. I was so happy to be in New York, and then after 5 years we became American citizens. And then I went to school, and I went to college, and it was, I had a lovely time in America.
Devorah, can I just ask before we get into Bingham, when did your family really know what happened during the Shoah and the Holocaust?
All the time.
Even during the war?
Yeah. We had a very difficult time. We knew we couldn't talk to my parents. I had so many questions I wanted to ask my mother and father, but we didn't dare. My father had a very difficult time with it. He felt he was the only one who survived from his whole family. And it was very difficult for him.
And your parents, were their families, what happened to the remainder of their families?
I didn't hear.
What happened to the remainder of the families?
Most of them were in Poland, and they perished in Auschwitz, yeah.
And your grandparents?
Oh, my grandparents were in Belgium with my aunt and her husband, and they had left Vienna together with my father and my brothers, and they went to Canada as farmers. Canada was looking for farm people, and they never, and of course they never were on a farm, but they said they were farmers, anything to be able to leave. So they left with my grandparents. So they didn't go to the internment camps, and they left Belgium before Hitler bombed Belgium.
And the rest of your mother's family, her cousins?
Well, my mother had a sister who was in Vienna with 2 children. Her husband had come to Israel with the oldest son. And she was on a boat that wasn't, after many years, it was, and I know already in 43 or 44, and the British wouldn't allow the boat to embark, so they were sent back. and all the people were taken off and they were killed in a Yugoslavian forest. So her sister was murdered with her 2 children there.
And they tried to come here and the British sent the boat back. It's tragic beyond belief.
Yeah.
And your father, did he have brothers and sisters?
My father had, he was one of 7.
And what happened to the remainder? They all perished.
He found, all of them were killed except for his sister's children who were in the camps, and they somehow survived the camps, and they came to Israel after the war.
And have you been in touch? Are you in
Oh,
touch
sure.
with?
When my father found out that he had some nieces and nephews, he was over the top with joy. But that was just very recently. He for years and years he felt he was the only one that survived, and it was very difficult for him.
And did he have guilty feelings that he had survived? And
It was hard, very difficult.
So you couldn't really speak to
We
your
couldn't
parents?
raise the subject. We couldn't ask any questions. That's why I was shocked to see the visas and to find out all these other little things. And then I knew that I was told later about my father being in their basement, hiding. But that was a story. That was miraculous. He was so. I don't think that many people had the initiative and the flexibility of thinking, how can I save the family?
Many
For him
thought
to
that it
leave the
was-
train thinking that if he would go into Poland, he'd be dead. If he jumps the train and they catch him, so they'll shoot him, so he'll be dead. So it's the same thing. But if he gets away and he gets back, he's able to save his wife and 4 children. So his thinking was always, what are the odds? What can I do to save them? And shall I do this and shall I do that? And he always had the forethought. He didn't come home. He knew that the Nazis were going to come and look for him. All these things and getting the food for us and making sure that we didn't drink water without having it boiled. I remember we had sticks that went like that, and we would get bread that had mold on it. And so he would make us put it into the fire and then turn it over before we could eat it. He was very careful with our hygiene, and I don't know, he was quite remarkable. He never was a shoemaker before the camps, and my mother wouldn't allow him to cook. But, but he did.
So you didn't know about Bingham, or how did you get to know? Because this is also
Because
absolutely...
my mother lived with us in her later life, and she was a saver. And my father also. I had a feeling that we don't waste anything. We don't throw things away if they can be useful. And he gave me a blessing when I was a little girl. He said, Kindleben, alles müsste kennen tien für sich allein. Do you speak Yiddish?
I understand.
I have to know to do everything for myself. And God should bless me that I shouldn't have to do everything. But we had to be self-sufficient. So my mother gave me a needle and thread when I was 6, and I was hemming handkerchiefs. And then I graduated to aprons, and then to skirts, and then so I learned how to sew, I learned how to knit, to crochet, I can fix mild, not too heavily problematic water problems. I can fix a faucet. I can fix electricity and fix the contacts, and I made a little battery tester, so we can manage, because we knew that whatever we had is what we had to work with. We couldn't ask somebody else to bring anything in during the war. It just wasn't, it wasn't available. You couldn't do it. So whatever you had, you made use of. And if you didn't have it, you were stuck. So we learned how to manage. And we were exposed to all kinds of ways to fix things and to mend and to look for a way to subsist. But people who, I remember a man who was in the first camp. He was used to eating, being served by a waiter with white gloves, a pheasant under glass, who knows what, but sleeping on straw with hundreds of other people was so abominable. He couldn't handle it. He died very quickly because he couldn't adjust to the situation. And we were told no matter what, we're going to make it. We have to live through it, and we have to do whatever we could. And Baruch Hashem, with a lot of help from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we survived. But it wasn't, many people didn't.
And your father, did he find work when he came to America?
Yeah, he managed to do whatever even in Vienna, he did quite a number of things until he had the textile store. But and
what did he do in America?
Quite a few things. He started out. Zalman learned how to do furrier. He was a furrier at one time. Then he made ties, and in Los Angeles he opened up another textile store. But
Devorah, so now we come to this most incredible, unbelievable episode.
Yeah, the story with the Bingham.
Yeah, if you could relate, because
we were asked to find some pictures, and we didn't have any pictures except that one picture that of the family that was taken on our vacation. But my mother had left a box of things, and in the box I found documents, and I found the visas.
This was for anniversary.
For an anniversary, for our 50th anniversary.
Your children asked you to
That
find.
was in 2002. That was 20 years ago. And since that time, we've had quite a relationship with the family of the person who signed our visas.
Okay, so your children asked you to find.
But
what did they ask you to find? Any documents or to find?
Yeah, the second documents had to be were given quietly by Bingham, because he was not supposed to do
But
this.
how did you find the documents?
We found the documents in my mother's box after she passed on.
Your mother kept everything.
My mother she even kept postal notes of sending the bags from Vienna to Belgium. And she kept, I have to show you this because it's really amazing. My father tried to come to Eretz Yisrael, and he had gone to the in Vienna.
This is the shofar.
Yeah, I'll show you that later. Where is it? Oh, it's in here.
For your 50th anniversary, what did your children want you to find?
Pardon?
For your 50th anniversary, what was the request of your children?
I should see if I can find some baby pictures and young pictures of me. They wanted to show the history of how they made a program, so they wanted me to give them a picture of myself when I was a young child.
And this led you to...
So I looked around and I thought maybe my mother had something in her box that I didn't know
You've
about.
never gone into the box before?
No, I wouldn't do it. I was waiting for my brother to come, and because I didn't want to do it on my own. But he didn't manage to come, so when she asked me to find the picture, I took a peek and I saw the visas there. I'm sure it's out. Yeah, it must be there.
So your father tried to come to Eretz Israel?
Yeah, my mother came and she lived with me but they made a lot of trips. Okay, here. You're not going to believe this. When we tried to go to Eretz Israel, this is the Israeli Kultusgemeinde. I mean, this is the Israeli office, and we had a number 3688, but until this was called, until it came our turn, the border was closed to Palestine too. We couldn't get in. So this is where he had his store.
Well, what is the date? You have a date on it?
This one was November 1938, the 3rd of November. He was told that it's too late. And what's interesting is this next one. When he saw that he couldn't get into Eretz Yisrael, he even went to the Siamese. Can you see this?
Yeah, consulate.
The consulate. He was willing to go to Siam, anywhere, just to get out. He never took no for an answer. If something was blocked, he would find something else.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And this one is dated December 38, I think, in 1938, the 4th of December.
And it's incredible that your mother kept all
What?
that your mother kept all the
she
documents.
kept all
as
of
well.
these things. I found my birth certificate. This is a copy of it because the birth certificate is on cloth. In Vienna, they did it all on with a cloth backing so it should last.
So you were
And my
born-
father wanted to call me Devorah, but they wouldn't allow it. So I needed a good Viennese name, so they said Dorothea would do.
And you were born on the 7th...
No, I was born November 10th, 1932.
No, November 10th, 1932.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's the Israelische Kultusgemeinde in Wien.
That is amazing.
Yeah. I found my mother's ksuva and all kinds of documents.
You have a copy of your mother?
Not here, no.
But you found it.
Yeah, it's a lot of different. No, this is something completely different. Bezirk in Wien. This shows that my father had a business in Vienna, so it's not all that important. But I'll show you some things that are interesting. Yeah. My grandson here, this is interesting here. See, but it never happened. This was in May.
And what
These are the Palestina.
This is the, yeah, it says here, wow, to go to it was British controlled Palestine, and you had a number, everything. It's incredible.
Yeah.
You know, your parents could have lost a lot of faith. They could have said,
What?
They could have given up faith.
Oh, they never gave up. No, no. It wasn't in their DNA. This is the chauffeur my brother made. And he even made a picture of the different. This is the opening of the chauffeur.
That he made himself.
No, he photographed this so that my grandson could have it in his paper.
He made the opening.
He grabbled. But then he also held it in his hand, and you don't realize how small that little chauffeur is until you see it in his hand.
Wow. It's amazing.
Isn't that something?
It's something, it really is.
Yeah. It looks very presentable here.
But when you see how small it is.
And it makes a sound, wow. Yeah. So we have these things that are very precious, yeah.
Very precious.
Right, I wanted to show you the visas.
So you open up the box and you see all different visas. This must have
The
come
visas
as-
were together, other things were together, and I just kept on looking, and I saw so many birth certificates of my brothers and the ksuva of my mother. Oh, I mean, they're very, very special. And ration books, all kinds of things that, receipts, all kinds of, okay. This is the beginning, the front part of the visa.
I'm just going to,
We had no papers, but it says here, affidavit in lieu of passport. In essence, this became our passport. And my father's signature and Hiram Bingham the fourth signature.
had you ever heard of the name Bingham before?
No, not until I saw this.
And did you wonder who he was, or?
Well, we had that email about getting a stamp. And then I saw this, so it just connected the... This is the inside of the... This is the... Did you want to take it from the...
No, this is incredible.
It doesn't have the red arrow, though.
Okay, but this is your father.
This is my father's visa, and the three of us were minors, so we were under him. My brother Zalman had his own visa, and my mother had her own visa.
So, which one are you?
I'm here, and this is my sister.
Your sister was younger than you.
Yeah, she was. I was 6 at the time, and she was 4. Here, I'm already. I think I must have been about 8.5, and she was 6.5.
It's incredible.
And I wanted to show you that America honored the Anschluss, so they wrote that I was born in Vienna, Germany, rather than Vienna, Austria. Can you see it
Yeah,
here?
it's incredible. I'm just going to zoom in. You can really do. So they put Vienna, Germany.
Germany. We were all born in Vienna, Germany. Yeah. And this is the back page of the visa. And it shows where we went and what stops we made with the boat, and each time we had to show the passports, which was this. And some of it is written in French, and some of it is written in Spanish, and some of it is written in English, depending on where we were.
So Devorah, you were really the first one in your family to discover this out of the children.
Yeah.
When you found these documents,
Yeah.
you must have been very excited to tell your siblings.
Well, my brother was very happy to be able to help Robert Bingham get the stamp for his father. And he created a relationship with him. You know that the whole family lights a yahrzeit candle for Hiram Bingham on January 12th. That's the day he passed away. I'll read you something that... So these are all the various visas from the family, but it's not...
No, this is very special.
But it's the same thing.
I know, but it's if we can just have a...
These pictures really show you can see the stamp on the thing. You can see
it's embossed.
The embossing. And over here you see it said this is the American, you see American Foreign Service or something, the attaché attached. It's in red, it goes right through, and you can see all the stamps that were used.
Devorah, can we just see some of the visas? So I think it's very, very... So this is a visa of your mother.
And that's the back page of her visa. And my brother's visa. This is the back page of my brother's visa. Let me see this. They kept on stamping all over, and they put these stamps on too. This was written in French. This is also... Yeah. We got on the boat the 17th of February, 1941. I have a very funny, it's not so funny, I have a story about, my father was really quite remarkable. My brother, when we were in the United States, it was, I think, at the beginning of 1942. America was in the war after Pearl Harbor. And my brother woke up coughing, and he smelled gas. So he woke up my father, and my father got out of bed, and he started also to choke, and he was fearful. It was after Pearl Harbor, and America was in the war, and he thought maybe the Germans had used gas and dropped gas into the United States. He ran to the window and opened it up and took a big breath. He wanted to know, is the gas coming from inside or from outside? And when he felt that it was coming from inside, because outside the air was fresh, he said, well, it's not gas from that. He rushed us, he woke us all up, and he rushed us out of the house. But he was always there to see what he could do to save the family, even to the risk of breathing in the air from outside, should it have been gas. Amazing.
It's incredible. Sure. So this is a picture of the stamp of...
Oh, those are the three people, yeah. This is the Congressman Bloom, Saul Bloom, Herman Jungleib, and the stamp that was issued in honor of Hiram Bingham IV, my parents and the four of us.
So if you could mention about Bloom, how he did something very unique.
The quota for the Polish immigrants was already filled, and Saul Bloom was able to present a private members bill to allow the 6 Schechters into the United States, even though my father was from Poland. Yeah, it's a miracle upon miracles, you know.
And on the right side is your relative who...
Pardon?
On the right side is...
The one, the Jungleib, yeah. We didn't even know him.
How did your father get his address and the contact?
That is miraculous. Probably through a, we always knew that people who came to a new country would go to others who came from the same town, and they called it Landsmannschaft.
That's right.
So maybe he asked for the Pschemische Landsmannschaft if they knew of somebody by the name of Jungleib. And that's how he was able to contact him. I don't know if that was really happened, because I never had a chance to ask him.
So this is the book that Robert wrote.
Oh, yeah. We had a special relationship with the Binghams,
Descent.
yeah.
How Harry Bingham defied his government to save lives. Courageous Descent. It's a magnificent picture and a cover of an incredible book, an incredible person.
He had,
and the cover is your...
Yeah, this is our...
This is yours.
He has Yossi's story. His letter is one of the things that he put into the book too. Yeah.
And on the cover, I think it is with these visas.
Yeah, he was very fond of Chagall, so he copied. Chagall was one of the people who got a visa from Bingham. Quite a few people that Varian Fry had on his list to rescue. So that's another story that's in the...
And also, you mentioned Liechtenstein, Rabbi Liechtenstein. He also...
Oh, that really was a surprise.
That Bingham also...
Yeah. He got the visas earlier than we did. He got them in 1940. Yeah. And he rode on a bicycle from Paris to Marseille. Amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And here you have his son who
He knew it was dangerous to go on a train, because if he would have been picked up, he would have been incarcerated right away. But also, we were lucky to have him when he was still a vice consul, because 2.5 months later, all the Jews were handed over to the Nazis, and they were shipped to Auschwitz. Everybody who was a Jew in France. So if you didn't have the visas, you were just out of luck.
These were really visas for life. These pieces of paper saved your lives.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, it's incredible. Now, Devorah, if you could mention, and this is a picture of the stamp, this magnificent stamp that the American government issued in his memory.
Well, we had a Zoom with them. That was so remarkable. We had such a wonderful gathering with all of the Binghams and the letters that kept going back and forth were really special.
And I think in the acknowledgements of his book, he acknowledges, the first person to acknowledge is Rabbi Joseph Schachter.
No, he was I think it's here.
So Devorah, in the meantime, you mentioned the most remarkable about your granddaughter. If you could just relate, because and you have a picture of your granddaughter.
Yeah.
If you could relate this, because this is something unbelievable. So here's a picture of your family with...
when we met them, they were... Robert Bingham was really so wonderful in how he related to the family. And he was good with the children. When we met him, this boy right here asked him, he knew the story that his father had really ruined his career by doing what the government didn't want him to do. So he asked Robert Bingham, why did your father do this? You know, what made him do it? And Robert Bingham answered him straight away, because he believed in the divine spirit of every human being. And my grandson didn't have an idea of what he was talking about. It's not in his vocabulary. He was born in Israel. He never heard of the word divine So I translated, Hu Hamin b'tzelem Elokim sheyesh b'chol ben Adam. And then he said, as if, Aval ze shalonu. You know, he thought it was exclusive to Jews, not realizing that the Bible was also used for other religions. And it was a marvelous lesson for him. So it was quite a wonderful meeting that we had, and we all learned a lot.
Now, your granddaughter did something.
My granddaughter,
very
that was in here before we left. I told her about meeting we were going to meet the son of the man who saved us. So she let me know how she received that information, and I was really surprised. She said, but Bubby, if he hadn't done that, you would be dead. And then Ima wouldn't be here, and neither would I. How she was able to understand the ramifications of his deed just blew my mind, because she was 6 years old.
It's incredible.
So, yeah. So then she walked with him hand in hand. It was quite something.
And Devorah, you've kept this close connection with the Bingham family.
All the time.
Was he
even just this last January, I'll read you what I wrote.
Has he come to visit in Israel?
Pardon?
Has he ever come to Israel to visit?
Oh, he was here. There was a tree that was...
at Yad Vashem?
Yeah, at Yad Vashem.
So his father was given Chasidei Motolam.
Yeah. Oh, here. This is what I wrote to him. And then I wrote, Dear Kim and Ann. We call them by their names already because we really felt close. And all the Bingham family. I wrote this January 11th, because January 12th is his yahrzeit. The memorial candle is in place and ready to be lit. A special prayer of thanks and blessings will precede the lighting of the candle. Our extended family, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren are all familiar with the Bingham gift of life, visas that enable them being born. They join us with their blessings to you, his family, for continued health, happiness so richly deserved. Shalom with loving hearts to all of you, Devorah Kieffer.
It's It's magnificent.
So I get a response. Dear Devorah, thank you for your beautiful letter, letting us know that the Schechter family, who have become our family, are preparing all over the world to light the remembrance candle on the eve of January 12th, the 34th anniversary of the death of our beloved Harry. The prayers accompanying that commemorative act will reach heaven itself. It is a great joy to meet so many of you last year by Zoom and to be able to talk briefly with your brother of blessed memory. As we wrote your nephew Josh earlier today, we would love to do another online family reunion at some time in the not-so-distant future. In the meantime, we thank you for all the continual, faithfully remember our dear father with such love. May his blessing and Joseph's be a blessing forever. Love from Kim and Ann.
It's magnificent.
I mean, there's a whole feeling of
it's togetherness.
Yeah, we're
it's
together.
Family. It's like mishpacha. It's really like family.
Yeah.
And I have to ask
You know, we feel so blessed that we could do Hakarat HaTov. Not everyone has the privilege of saying thank you.
That's so true.
So this is a very, very special thing for us.
And Devorah, can I just ask you, having gone through the incredible miracles and what you went through,
Yeah.
your family, they never lost their emunah, they never lost their faith?
Oh, no. No. If we know that all of these things just didn't happen. You know, we had to do hishtadlut. We did what we had to do. We, as if I did anything, my parents. But it was all coordinated from above. You know, it's... and I guess we had certain things that we had to accomplish in life. And Baruch Hashem, you know, thank God, the children are wonderful. They're good people. They're all contributing to society. And we had, I guess we had some things to take care of, so we're doing it. But it's really a special gift to be able to say thank you. And it's hard to believe. This is just me. Would you believe?
And it keeps growing, Bezrat Hashem. Yeah. So many, just from your family.
Just
how
me,
many?
not my family.
Just
Not.
Wow.
This is not my brothers or my sisters. Just my family.
Baruch Hashem. Wow.
You know, Robert Bingham said that we really show that the saying that the person who saves one life saves the world, it comes to fruition here.
It really does. Wow.
Yeah.
And Devorah,
These are all the grandchildren.
if I could ask you, this is beautiful. When was this picture taken?
At my husband's 95th birthday party.
95th. So how many years ago?
It was just last Hanukkah.
Last Hanukkah. So I'd maybe swim.
Yeah, I'll show you what I did with that, but I don't know if
And
it can go on the...
okay. Devorah, can I just ask you?
These are some of the grandchildren, not all of them. There's some more here, and
Devorah, you have a picture of a Rav in...
That's my husband's grandfather.
Husband's grandfather. If I could just ask you, Devorah, what message do you impart to the grandchildren and the future generations?
That whatever comes in life, you do whatever you can, and you be resilient. If something doesn't work out, try a different way, and if you need help, ask for it if you can, and just don't give up.
And that's what your parents did.
Yeah. I think this Indian of being resilient and not stopping when you fail the first time. The person who succeed probably failed many, many times, but kept on going until he did succeed. And a person who doesn't keep on going stops with the failure.
So true.
So you have to be able to welcome all the setbacks and learn from them and go on. I mean, that's the way to flourish.
And Devorah, living here in Israel?
That's the best blessing of all. Really.
Wow. So Devorah, I really want to thank you. If you could...
I'm going to show you something. Not for the picture.
Devorah, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
It was a
I am so grateful. I have never heard such a story, and not only a story, but how you relate your life and your parents and the example.
We really were very blessed.
And you said there were 18 miracles. I'm sure there's even more than 18 miracles. But Hashem was with you, and that you're alive, and that your family. So you should just have mazel bracha at Meves
Amen, amen, v'amen.
and just nachas from your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren.
We have Baruch Hashem.
And at Meves in good health.
Amen, all of us.
And Devorah, you must continue what you do, because you are an inspiration. Such an inspiration to all of us. And I am so grateful to you. I am extremely grateful. Yeah. And I really want to thank you so very much.
But,
so these are the original,
the
affidavit, and these are the original.
He pulled them apart. You see, all of these had this string
it was all bound,
attached to them. They were like this. And this was just one, because this is my mother's. But you can see the embellishment of
that it's embossed,
of the embossing of
the seal. Yeah.
And here too, you see.
And this is the original signature of.
If you turn it over, you can see what they did with it.
Bingham.
And all the different stamps that go through here. Here's the one.
Well, thank God, it should just be kept in. These are priceless. It's absolutely priceless.
Yeah.
And here's the picture of. Wow. Affidavit of passport.